Hey folks, welcome to another weekly update, another wet and dreek update. Yeah, it's been a dreek week here in Scotland. It has not stopped raining, which is unusual, to be quite honest. The volume of rain that we've had in Scotland over the last 4 or 5 days has been phenomenal. I don't know if you can hear in the background, the burn just behind me is flowing really heavy. I have thought about scrambling down the hill that's behind me to go and have a look and get some arty shots to put into the video, but I don't fancy falling on my bum and having a wet, muddy bum. But yeah, so on to the news this week. In terms of Azure, we are still a bit quiet. I reckon the teams are all just busy working on Ignite, but there has been some news around Azure Key Vault and Azure Policy. So one of the things that we love to do as IT professionals, as developers, is to have secrets and secure them properly. Your certificates, have them in a safe place, somewhere that's secure and is easy to access when you need to pull it in, when you need to update them, all that kind of good stuff. And Azure Key Vault is great for that. However, sometimes we can be a bit lax when we store things into the Key Vault. So if you maybe your password isn't as secure as it could be, maybe it's a bit generic, maybe your certificate doesn't have the right authorities, isn't the right length, etc, etc. So what we now have is Azure Policy can be integrated into Azure Key Vault, so you can either audit or deny things that can go into the Key Vault. And that's around trying to protect those things that you're putting into the Azure Key Vault, your secrets, your certificates, are actually meeting company standards, are meeting the highest security standards that could possibly be. So it's a great thing. I definitely would recommend turning it on. If you haven't already done that, if you haven't already communicated best practices for your passwords and your certificates, then probably turn on Azure Policy with Azure Key Vault as an audit feature, and that way you'll get alerted and you'll see what's happening. You'll be able to tell what's good and what's not according to your organisational standards. And then once you get into good practices, you can actually turn on the deny, so that future secrets, future certificates are not breaching the organisation's policies and people aren't following those bad practices that you don't want to continue. So yeah, have a look at Azure Policy and Azure Key Vault integration for sure. So GitHub Universe is happening this week, and there are a ton of new things and a ton of exciting sessions that I've added to the calendar, and I'll watch on demand and things like that. One of the things that I did want to highlight is GitHub Issues. Now this has been in beta before, but now it's publicly available to everybody that has a GitHub account. I'm a bit confused by the name, I'm going to be honest. So it's a kind of tracking board, a to-do list, a Trello board, whatever you want to call it, a project management board, again, whatever you want to call it. Being able to track it, track what you're doing, track who's assigned to it, track progress, alert people when things are happening. It's a to-do list. So I'm very confused by the name, GitHub Issues. Anybody got any insight into that one? But yeah, it looks pretty cool. If you're working on projects within GitHub, if you're maybe on a community board, if you're in a community project, you can have that kind of community-led to-do list. Again, why is it called GitHub Issues? Another thing to come out of GitHub Universe is GitHub discussions are getting some new features. So GitHub discussions are great places for communities to actually work together, collaborate, discuss things, chat about what's happening. In the future, you'll be able to post polls and have the community vote on things that you want, things that you're doing, that kind of thing. It'd be a great feature for that. And also you're going to be getting, as an owner of that GitHub repository, as that GitHub discussion area, an insight dashboard where you can see trends, what pull requests are happening. Just a great insight into what's happening within your community inside the discussion part. Talking about security, we've actually seen Iran say that they've been hacked and it's actually affected their petrol distribution network inside of their country, and it's caused a lot of issues. Obviously, people want fuel, they want petrol, they want, they be able to transport things around, be able to travel, see people, etc. And I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of hacking stories in the news. I think Microsoft themselves were saying that they've seen a resurgence in some Russian hacker activity and things like that. So people try and be secure, try and follow those best practices, try and you know, have that discussion again with your IT department, with your stakeholders, if you still don't have the right security you think you need to protect your organisation. No one wants to be hit by malware, ransomware. They do not want to have to deal with those kind of things. So it can have serious implications for your organisation. So yeah, just double down on security, folks, and think about it, because I think it's here to stay. And as IT professionals, as developers, as, you know, whatever you may be sitting watching this video, we need to do our bit to try and encourage our organisation to have the best and most secure security best practices that we can. Last but by no means least in this week's news, I want to talk about something that Octopus Deploy have done that I think is absolutely really cool. So when you're working with Kubernetes, you have to write YAML files, and let's face it, we all love to hate YAML files. Some of us are amazing at it, some of us have to continually search and figure out how we do it and try again. What Octopus Deploy has done, and it's an awesome guy who I've yet to meet inside the company, I know him as Matt, I believe, is his name. He has created this YAML generator. So you can go in, and as a human readable interactive kind of website, you have a bunch of drop down boxes at the left hand side. You can answer all the questions that you need in terms of creating that Kubernetes YAML file, and it will spew out the YAML for you. So you don't have to read YAML, you just have to know what you're trying to build and want to achieve with that YAML Kubernetes file. And I think it's pretty cool. I definitely want to double down on my Kubernetes this, I'm going to say not calendar year, kind of financial year, or, you know, focus for the next year on Kubernetes. It's something that I've dabbled with, not really understood, tried to avoid, and never really learned it. So I'm sure I will be using this YAML generator to help me on my journey of being better at Kubernetes, and hopefully be able to deploy Kubernetes using Octopus Deploy and be able to talk about that and share my journey with you all there as well. Cheers everybody for tuning in today. Hopefully you've enjoyed this weekly update. Please do hit that like button if you have enjoyed this video, and yeah, share it with your colleagues, your friends, and I'll hopefully catch you in another video. Cheerio everybody!